Hello, and welcome to the Investor Guys Podcast, the ultimate podcast for serious real estate investors in the know. Join your host, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills, as they share their expert insights, strategies, and tips to help you succeed in the world of real estate investing. Get ready to level up your investment game with the Investor Guys Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills.
Go. We are back for another episode of the Investor Guys Podcast. How you doing there, Bill?
I am doing terrific, brother Kevin. The Kev Dog back with us here on Investor Guy Podcast. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us, whether you are live with us, looking at us on Facebook Live, our website, investorguyspodcast.com, whether you are watching us archived. We appreciate you being here so much. And what we got up the sleeve today, Kev? What are we going to talk about, brother?
You know, we've done a couple of shows. Actually, we've done 3 shows already on inspecting properties. And everybody who is a real estate investor who purchases a property absolutely needs to have a property inspection. But before we have that property inspector out, we want to do a cursory inspection ourselves because we want to make an offer based upon what we see as issues so that we're making a fair offer. What we don't want to do is miss something huge and our property inspector says you've got an issue with this or you've got an issue with that, and it's going to cost us more money than what we had expected. So we have to turn around and we have to drop our offer. Whenever that happens, the seller is usually not very happy because they had pretty much already started spending the money that we've made the offer for.
Multiple times over?
Yes. So we want to try and catch as much as possible before we make that offer so that we have a good indication of what this property is going to cost us, no matter what this property is going to cost us. Now, the thing that Bill and I were discussing before we went on air is every single property, if you buy a brand new property, it can still have an issue, and you need to be aware of what that might be, because if you're buying a brand new property, the builder's going to fix it. Okay. If you're buying a property that looks like it's in perfect condition, there still may be an issue. You want to know what that is because you need to discount the offer on the property for the amount that it's going to cost for you to repair that so that it still comes in as a fair offer for you, what's going to work for you. So no matter what type of property you're making an offer on, you need to be able to do these cursory inspections. So we were going to start, we've already done foundation, we've already done roof. We talked a little bit about electrical and ceiling on the inside.
Yep.
We're going to start on the outside of the house though, because that is really where everybody starts anyway. Before you walk in.
Something out on inspection from the selling side. Because having Kevin and I both own brokerage firms, so we see this very differently than most investors do. We see it both from the investor side, which is what he and I do personally, but we also see it from the brokerage side because we both own brokerage firms. So we get a very different aspect on these issues than just a straight investor is going to get. We truly see both sides of the issue. As you are selling property, when an inspector for the buyer gives a report back to the agent or back to the buyer, and they say, oh, you've got 9 things on here, you got to go fix these before we're going to buy that. Understand this, that is not true. You do not have to do that. Might it blow up your sale? Yeah, it could. But no, it's not a law or anything. Just because it gets handed back to you and it's on an inspection report doesn't mean that it has to be repaired. Now, know this, that if you are dealing with a real estate agent and that real estate agent comes in possession of a recent inspection on the property, whether they buy it or not, that property inspection is now reported in the MLS, and you have to share that inspection with other people that come forward if there are deficiencies that are noted in that. So be aware of that, but know that an inspection is, it is an opinion that there may be a deficiency somewhere. Sometimes those deficiencies are black and white. Sometimes it's an opinion. So you don't have to, but it is going to affect your sales price if you do not. And it may affect it to the point that you go, I'm just not going to do that, and go look for another buyer.
Right. And just as a quick note from the selling side, okay, if you have a deficiency on an inspection that you do want to make right, it is better for you to put a credit in your closing for that than to fix it yourself. Because if you fix it yourself, it's probably going to cost you more, and it is absolutely going to cost you more time. If you put a credit in there and you let the buyer take care of it, the time frame and everything else is entirely up to them, and you get the deal done quicker, you're out, and you've got your money in your pocket quicker. And then it puts that task on them while they are in possession of the property, not while you're in possession of the property.
And Kevin and I differ on this, and you're always going to hear when we differ. I always, if a repair is going to be done, I never give $1 credit to the buyer. I always do it, have it done. Here's why I do it the way that I do it. And again, you work what's best for you. You take what you like and you keep it, and what you don't like, you throw away and move on. But you'll find that what agents and buyers, their perception of the cost of a repair is usually a multiple of what that repair actually costs.
Well, I don't give them what they ask. I give them what I know it's going to cost.
Yeah, well, a lot of times,
or usually a little under what it's going to cost.
They don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to accept just that. So anyway, take care of it one way or the other. I like to do it, have it done, because I know I can control the cost, and it'd be significantly less. And I hear people all the time say, "Oh, it needs carpet, knock $5,000 off for carpet." And I'm like, "Well, that's great and wonderful, but your buyer's going to want $20,000 off for the carpet." So I'd be very careful about that. So either way, what Kevin and I are saying, whichever side you like to use, and it's not right or wrong, it's just different, then both of us know what that repair costs. And that's so much about what the last couple of shows, this show, probably a couple more are going to be about, is understanding those costs of repairs. Because if you know that, this is a completely different game than it is if you're going in blind trying to figure out, well, gee, I don't know what that's going to cost. And you call somebody and they give you a number and you don't have a clue whether that number has any basis in reality or not.
Addressing something really quick before we go on into our break. For example, what Bill just said, it's going to need new carpet. First of all, I don't sell properties that need new carpet. Okay. It doesn't necessarily have new carpet. It may have the old carpet that we've cleaned it. Typically, when they say that, that means that the buyer doesn't like the color of carpet or doesn't like the type of carpet, and they want the seller to pay for the carpet. Okay. Know that when you sell this property, unless you're wholesaling it out, okay, you've already made this property look good. That's part of this process that we're talking about right now. You've already made this property look good. So if somebody's coming back and saying, well, it's going to need a new floor in the kitchen, that is their choice. Okay. There's somebody else who will come along behind them and be perfectly okay with that floor or redoing that floor in the kitchen. If that floor is broken and it looks like a mess, I've already fixed it. Bill's already fixed it. So when you hear something like, oh, it needs new carpet and my buyer wants a credit for it, I'm sorry, but next. Okay. And that's what I will tell the agent. You know what? If they don't like the carpet, that's too bad. They can get new carpet, or I'll wait for another offer. So we're in on a break, and we'll go ahead.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Absolution X, limited editions, lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at caymank.com.
reallykevin.com. Weekly recorded coaching sessions. Learn, grow, find resources, opportunities, and more. You'll find it all at reallykevin.com.
And we are back from our break. And we were talking, we're leading up to curb appeal. So I'm just going to jump right into that because I know we're going to go long because we always go long. So let's jump into curb appeal. Bill,
so
lead us off.
We're going to have curb appeal from very different aspects, because Kevin's going to give you a California look. He's going to give you a Florida look. He's going to give you a Midwestern, a Cleveland look, and an upstate New York look, Buffalo, Syracuse, and everybody's a little bit different. I'm going to give you Nevada. I'm going to give you Texas. I'm going to give you the Deep South. And so you look at where you are. So it's not a question of whether other parts of the country do curb appeal or not. No, everybody has to focus on curb appeal no matter where you are.
They're just
How
different
you do
perspectives.
that is going to differ depending on what part of the country that you're in. So like here in Texas, there are one of the most common problems that I see it all the time. I see it in the Deep South. I see it anywhere that is has a lot of greenery, a lot of trees. This tends to come up on a regular basis. And that is people leaving too much it's on an established property. Maybe it's got multiple trees in the front yard. Well, they're fully grown out. They've got limbs that are hanging down. And what they do, even though it's a beautiful tree, it obstructs the view of the property from the street. Look, you're not going to sell a house if people can't see it. So you got to get a clear line of sight. This is the first thing I focus on with landscaping, curb appeal, is a clear line of sight. So I'm going out, and if you will walk the perimeter of the limbs, so if you'll follow the branches out to where they are, and typically they're, depending on the type of tree it is, they're either going to hang down or they're naturally going to grow up. Most of the trees around here, a lot of them, the limbs will, as they get older, the limbs will start to droop on the ends. If that's the type of tree that you have, what I'm doing is I'm walking around the lowest tip around the perimeter of the tree, and I want that lowest tip to be no more than 10 feet off the ground, preferably 12, so that people can clearly see the house. You'll find that there's an optical illusion that happens when, this is called trimming a tree up. And when you do that, there's an optical illusion that goes into effect. That optical illusion is when you cut these lower branches off so that your trunk is nice and clean all the way up to where your branches, again, aren't hanging down any lower than about 12 feet, your tree looks taller. And so it's a very, it's a cool thing to know. So that's what I look at with trees. Also shrubbery. I want to have the shrubs down. They may be great for privacy. They're terrible for attracting people to come inside and look. So I'm much more a person that will go in and just butcher, cut, remove a ton of that stuff so that people can see the property. I lost you there, brother.
I'm still here. I think you can hear my voice. Yeah, it's just the camera. So when you cut your shrubs, you're cutting them below the window line, correct?
Correct. Now, if they're older shrubs, like especially on a box shrub, what you're going to find is the lower you cut them, they're just sticks, because the greenery is the older they get goes more and more to the top. So a lot of times, if that's the case, I'm just going to jerk them and replace them with new ones, so that I've got the greenery at the bottom. So, and again, we use a lot of box shrubs around here. Not very expensive, very hardy. You see those in a lot of places in the country.
Yeah, they actually are called, I think, a Japanese box or something like that. One of the other things that I do, and pretty much no matter where you are in the country, landscaping is important. A lot of places like Cleveland, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, in the wintertime, you're still selling houses, okay? So you're not going to be able to see that landscaping, but they're going to know more or less where you've got sidewalks and a patio and everything else. For us, one of the things I focus on for curb appeal is the actual appearance of the house. No peeling paint. I want to make sure that the paint all looks good and it has good colors. Everybody has seen a house, driving down the street, and they're like, what were they thinking when they picked that color? I don't want any of those colors at all, because I do not want someone saying, what were they thinking when they picked that color? How are they going to sell this house? Because that is exactly right. How am I going to sell that house? Because the first thing anybody says is, that's an ugly color, babe. Let's keep going. They're not even going to look on the inside of the house. So I want it to be an appealing color. Oftentimes, bright colors will make something look more appealing. So I'll use bright colors, even if it's just some bright colors on the trim. Very, very important, because things that people check for in different markets are different. In cooler climates, people will, before they even look into the house, see if there are upgraded windows or if there are storm windows on the outside of the property. In Florida, one of the things that they will check for is to see if hurricane windows have already been installed in the property. All those are things that people can see from the outside of the property. Now, in Florida, do I redo all of the windows to have hurricane windows on a property that I just bought that doesn't? No. Would I maybe invest in hurricane windows for the first floor in the front of the house? Yes. Not because it makes the house hurricane proof, because I've only done one wall on the first floor, but that is what people notice. And I'm not being deceptive, because they can walk in the house and they can see the rest of it. I'm trying to get them inside the house, because that is when people fall in love with the house. Your curb appeal is basically the lure on the end of your fishing line to get them to come in and see that kitchen and fall in love with it, see that fireplace and fall in love with it, see those bathrooms in the master suite and fall in love with it. So keep that in mind. Your curb appeal is the pretty that gets them in the door. Now, we're already up on a break, so we're going to take a quick break.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X. Limited editions. Seek your absolution. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Only at absolutionx.com.
Get ready for power, for success, for solutions and answers. It's all in one place. www.reallykevin.com. Education, opportunities, coaching, and so much more.
And we are back, and we're talking curb appeal. And the point I was making just before we close is really, the more appealing you make your property look, okay? Landscaping. We mentioned in a previous episode, I like to have my agents put yellow flowers by the door. Appealing paint. Nothing that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. If I've got roof shingles that are flapping in the breeze, that's not going to look good. Even if I don't want to redo the whole roof, I will go up there and have that roof shingle fixed, because that is going to be a detractor.
We refer to those as tack downs.
Yes, and the roof may be perfectly fine. The roof may not be leaking at all. Just every once in a while, the wind catches a shingle just right, and it'll flip it up and break it, because it's asphalt. So it'll break it. It can still go down. It can still be tacked down with something like Thompson's or the Seals Right putty or anything else. Yeah.
Roof nails.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to put nails into them, because that will cause a leak later. But yeah, just use some sort of an adhesive to get them down. But anything that's going to detract from the visual of your property, get rid of it. And every market is going to be different. And like I said, in places where you have cold weather, warm weather, like Cleveland, for example, you've got snow most of the year for the winter. You've got beautiful weather for the summer. During the summer, make sure you've got plants going. That's pretty much a no-brainer in Cleveland. You throw anything in the dirt and it'll grow, okay? In the wintertime, don't worry about it, because all the leaves are gone. Nothing's going to grow. There's going to be snow on everything. Make sure your house looks good in a bleak backdrop. Anything that you want to add to curb appeal before?
You talked about putting yellow flowers on the front porch. So that's terrific because I was going to add color. Absolutely. When I do the shrubbery, I will normally come in front of the shrubs and plant a row of, and I just refer to it as a roll of color. Um, I do not have a green thumb. I absolutely have a black thumb, but I know enough to be able to walk through Lowe's or Home Depot or a nursery and point to flats that happen to be on sale that have 20 little flowers in them. I might buy 4 or 5 of them, and they're just different colors. And it adds that bright attractiveness to it. Also, I put bark down in my flower beds. Now, we were talking different parts of the country. I was doing the very first house that I was doing in Vegas. One of the neighbors came over. Vegas has a lot of what they refer to as desert landscaping, which means they have rocks in the yard.
Gravel.
They have dirt and cactus. And I mean, but it is the area. So I had put a nice flower bed in front of this house, and I was throwing bark down, and one of the neighbors came over and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, we're rehabbing the house, and we got 4 or 5 guys running around, being all busy, and I was trying to be helpful." And he goes, "Well, why are you putting bark in that flower bed?" And I'm like, "Well, because this is, it looks terrific." And he said, "You realize out here, that is inviting scorpions like crazy. That's the kind of stuff they love to be under, and you don't want to do that." And I was like, there's a good point. So know your local market that you're doing it in. And look, I'm going to tell you, not only from landscaping, but from interior design as well. If you are not jumping on realtor.com and looking at hundreds and hundreds of houses, you're kidding yourself about what you're doing. You can get so many incredible ideas. So if I'm doing a 3,000 square foot home, and I always refer to footage as opposed to price, because that same house is going to vary wildly across the country in price. So if I'm doing a 3,000 square foot home, I'll jump on realtor.com and I'll search for some houses that are 5 and 6 and 7,000 feet, and just to look at the pictures, to get decorative ideas, to look at what is it that I can do to my property that's going to elevate it to look similar to these high-end properties and make my house more appealing.
And the way your house looks is important, not just for curb appeal, but the photos that are going to be in the MLS. Now, Bill knows this, but my wife has a photography business, and one of her divisions is actually real estate photography. And she pays attention. So you're going to like this, Bill. She just did a shoot last week, okay? And the drone shot and everything. I was proud of her. I went out there and actually watched her do the drone shot. She did the drone, everything by herself. And she is comparing now the house that she shot to other similar houses in the exact same neighborhood. It's a gated community, a golf course community. There are houses that have been on the market for 3 months that now have fewer views than the house that she shot in the last week, and have fewer saves than the house that she shot in the last week. So the way something looks, whether it's in the MLS or from the curb, very, very, very important. And the house that she shot doesn't really stand out from the other houses in the neighborhood. It didn't have exceptional landscaping or anything else, but she made sure that it was lit well. She made sure that the colors looked good and they popped out. They didn't look like they were taken with an iPhone. Again, we are visual beings. We from the time we were cavemen, our brains have said, that doesn't look good, don't eat it. That doesn't look safe, get away from it. So our brains have become accustomed to looking for things that are appealing to us and things that aren't appealing to us. So the more appealing we make anything look, the better we're going to have, the easier it's going to be for us to sell that property. And keep in mind, okay, when we're looking at properties, the same thing applies, and we have to override that in our brain, okay? no matter how ugly a property looks, if the numbers work, you buy that property. No matter how great that property looks, if the numbers don't work, take a step back, go do something else. When we're looking at a property that is ugly, that has no curb appeal, agents typically already know this, and they're not getting a lot of offers on this property because it looks ugly. This is something that can work to our advantage as an investor, because we can go in and we can get a discount on this property because they're not getting offers, and we can make this property look good because we know what we're doing, and we can literally turn this thing around inside of a month without doing very much more than a facelift and have better offers and a profit in our pocket.
So before we wrap today, crazy how fast these fly. I want to throw out, touch base on something that Kevin mentioned. His wife is a professional photographer. When you are listing a property in MLS, make sure you have professional pictures done. I love my iPhone, absolutely. You cannot take real estate quality professional pictures with it. So know that either your agent, and when you're giving an agent a property, that's one of the things I think you should always ask your agent. Do you have outside photographer that comes in and takes the pictures, or are you trying to do them yourself with your iPhone? So I want an outside photographer, a professional that specializes in real estate, because they understand how to make that house look its absolute best in the picture. I'll give you one quick example and then we'll hop. I had a guy who's a professional. I come out and do one of my properties. It was a terrible looking day. And I said, hey, as soon as you get them done, send them and let me kind of pick the ones that I think we're going to use. Also, the order that you put those pictures in, or your agent does, for display is extremely important. And so he sends me the pictures, and it looks like the end of the world. The house is gorgeous, but the sky in the background is just gray and horrible. It looks like we're going to have a tornado any minute. And I called him, but he started laughing. He goes, well, I wanted to get them to you as soon as I got them, but I haven't fixed them yet. And he went into Photoshop and put this gorgeous, incredible blue sky behind it. And it was amazing. You see the pictures side by side, just shocking. So that's one of the reasons you want to be able to use a pro.
Yeah, and another thing too, do not discount using a drone. If you've got a larger property, especially if you've got outbuildings, you want a drone shot of it so that you can see everything, so they have perspective. If you've got something like solar panels or something like that you need to show off, a shed, something like that, do a drone. Have your agent do it. Your agent will pay for it typically, okay? Because they're going to be getting a commission. If you're going to post it yourself on MLS, because you can pay a fee to post it yourself on MLS, and you want to do the whole walkthrough and everything else with every prospective buyer, which I don't, then go ahead and have somebody do it for you. But drone shot for the top if you're in that type of a property, and yeah, professional photos, it makes a difference. It really does. They bring lights and everything that your agent is not going to do. When they have that cell phone, they're not setting up lights, they're not setting up a flash, they're not staging things to make it look good. They're just shooting with an iPhone. So there is a difference. Again, appeal. It is all, we call it curb appeal, but it is all eye appeal. It is what catches your eye and makes you say, hey, I want to look inside of this house. And then continue that in when you go through the house. We'll cover more inside the house on one of our next episodes because we're running super long like we always do. Bill, thanks for joining me. As always, it was fun.
Yep.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, no, isn't that crazy?
So I will talk to you soon. Happy investing, everybody, and we'll see you around.
Thank you for tuning in to the Investor Guys podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated on the latest trends and insights in the world of real estate investing. Also, don't forget to check us out and see all of our episodes at theinvestorguyspodcast.com. Email us, contact@investorguyspodcast.com. Remember, the key to financial success lies in staying informed and taking action. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, happy investing.